Jimmy. I'm one of the pastors here at Ford Point, and one of our kind of foundational, pillar points of, as we like to have fun, we like to play together, so we always try to kick things off with a little kind of cultural, fun joke, a little competition, friendly competition. We're going to try to find out today who watches the most TV, so we know who we have to pray over the most before the end of the gathering this morning, because you're watching too much TV. So today, we're going to be looking at some opening credits, a picture of like the opening credits of a TV show, and the first person to be able to guess the correct TV show wins a free box of popcorn, okay? Free box of popcorn, you can't get that just anywhere around here. It's like gold, so you're going to want to definitely participate and make sure you put your thinking cap on. All right, we're going to start off with a little easy one, a little, any takers? Opening credit, what is this from? Come on, you church people, this is, you start off, this is a T-ball. Oh, it's there. I mean, try looking at the back screen, then. You can see it better at the back screen.
Oh, wow, there we go.
Anybody? No Looney Tunes. Oh my goodness. Obviously none of you guys have ever been to Sacred Melody and bought things. VeggieTales! Oh my goodness. Come on guys, VeggieTales. Wow, this is a rough morning. We are gonna pray over everybody. Yeah. Gideon doesn't know anything from the Bible, but he knows VeggieTales. Yeah. You got that down. Alright. Here's the next one. Hopefully the next one you can see better. Which was this from? Full House! Yes. Close second, Kim, but Rebecca, we're going to give that one to you. Fuller House, well, you know, the judges say it's an acceptable answer, except you didn't answer in the form of a question. So, next one here. See if you can see it. Oh, you see it? Oh, Kim, again, a nice second, but the Rochelle family obviously watches more TV than you do, so you guys are going to have to hang out maybe. Yeah, Breaking Bad. All right, we'll see how many of you guys are. Rebecca, yet again, we are praying for you. No? Yes, this is from The Office. All right, the last one. This might be a little harder. See? Yes, Stephen. What? Obviously, if you want to participate in our friendly games, you have to sit in the front row, okay? Because that's where the mojo is for winning. Yes. NCIS, there it is. How many of you guys watch NCIS? Anybody? A couple people? I put that one in for my parents, because my parents are big NCIS fans. So, well, good. Well, welcome to Ford Point. Hopefully, you got a little chuckle and had some fun. Again, we like to have fun here. A couple things. If you're with us for the first time, we would love the opportunity to be able to connect with you and get to know you. Also, we would love to send you a gift just for saying thanks for being with us this morning. So if you would, you can pull out your cell phones. You can text the word welcome to the number you see up on the screen there. Hopefully you can see it. I can see it. It's 315-883-2213. And all you got to do is text the word welcome. And that would give us the opportunity to connect with you. And that's our heart's desire, is to get to know you. We want to say a special thank you to everyone who came and participated and helped serve at our picnic last Sunday. We had a great time. This is the cake before it was devoured ruthlessly. But again, just thanks to some quick little pictures you can see of some fun times we had. Obviously, the Stephen and Jimmy cornhole team was a dynasty, undefeated. Last 2 years in a row now, I think, we're undefeated. So if you consider yourself a cornhole champ, then put your name on the list and we'll take you out too, okay? And obviously, no picnic is complete without a picture of Gideon without a shirt on. So I'm not so sure if we should say the Pledge of Allegiance to him, or I'm not sure what there is legal or spiritual, but there's all sorts of, it looks like we need to pray for him too. I don't know, I can't tell what's going on. A lot of prayer we need today. Anyways, again, thanks for everybody who came out, and we had lots of fun. Really enjoyed it. Today we're wrapping up our different series, so next week as school kind of begins to get back into session and life probably begins to change for different people, we have a new series we're going to be kicking off next week, so we got a quick little clip here that we want to show you to give a taste of what's starting next week. We're going to be starting a new series called Margin next week, and obviously like we talk about, school begins and life begins to change. There's all sorts of different balance of things that we need to fit in, and sometimes it feels like the only way we can kind of keep with all of the demands of our life is to kind of run at this maximum capacity level. So what we want to do is, maybe discover there's a different way that we can live and go about life and the things that we put as priorities. So we encourage you to join us for that, and maybe you know somebody who's kind of constantly always on edge because they're living in that maximum capacity level, and you want to invite them to join you. We would love to have them with us as we go through that starting next week, okay? And again, just in case you missed it, there's a number again if you were with us for the first time or just recently. Again, just to connect with you, you can text the word welcome to 315-883-2213. And then this morning, if you came looking to give at Ford Point, we have a couple different ways to try to make it as easy as possible. Obviously, in person, we have the Joy Box back there as you enter into the door. There's some envelopes you can fill out, and we make sure we keep track of it all so we can send you your receipts and tax information at the end of the year. You can also give online at the website, fordpoint.org. You can set up an account online to be able to give right through the website, or again through your phone. We like to do as much as we can through our phones because everybody usually has a phone. You can give any amount just by texting that amount to the short code 84321, okay? So if you would go ahead and stand to your feet this morning as we continue on. We're going to do some high fives this morning, only maybe this time we're going to do some slow motion. So find some people and give them some slow motion high fives this morning, okay?
If you can hear this message, listen closely. To the exiled, misunderstood, or upside down, this is your message of hope. When problems come, use them. When enemies persecute you, love them. These struggles are a fire, refining you into gold. Look around. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. Challenge what is expected of you. This world is not your home. You are different.
Good morning, everyone. How are we all doing? All right, we'll try that one more time. Good morning, everyone. There we go. All right, here. Can I maybe get the house monitors down just a little bit, guys, back there with the sound team there? Well, it's always wonderful seeing everyone's smiling faces, even the lights are a little bit dim now. I know there's a lot of smiling faces, and again, just really awesome to see everyone here this morning. To any guests who are here first time, welcome. Got some great family members in the house here this morning, and also anyone who's jumped on. I think we got the live streaming going on today. So anyone joining us Sunday morning, we are thrilled that you are spending your time. Maybe you skipped the fair to be here, so you know more of the discipline. Anyone hit the fair this week? You did a day earlier? Yeah, there we go. Get some hands here. Good. I got as close as the amphitheater there, so thanks to Rochelle's there inviting me out to one of the shows. And I think the show goes as long as the time it takes to pull into the place and the time to leave the place. But besides that, it is a wonderful time with friends when you can go to those shows. So again, with that said, I'm Stephen, one of the pastors here at Forward Point, and I guess have the honor of wrapping up the series that we have been in. This is a 4-week series called Different. You saw the little transformer type voice behind us going on. And we have been doing highlights in the book of 1 Peter, where Peter here is encouraging the church, and we're going to get into it here as wrapping this whole thing up. But this was happened around AD 60, 64 AD here, so this has been after Jesus had already gone into heaven, and in turn, the Christians at the time were under severe persecution. They had been scattered and persecuted, so we will get into that. But a real quick recap of what we've been learning in this 4-week series, talking about being different. Our faith is to be different. So first week we talked about a different faith that we have in trials. As Jesus followers, how does your faith stand when you not go through everything good, but when you are going through struggles and persecution? So we talked about different types of faith people have. For instance, I was raised in the church, and being raised in the church, you have a little bit of this, what I call inherited faith. So you might say to yourself, well, I'm not, I was raised in the Methodist church, or I'm raised in a Catholic church, or I'm raised in some non-denominational church, and consequently, I guess I'm just a churchgoer, and I am that. I am a Christian because of default. So maybe you have an inherited faith. Maybe you have a shallow faith where, when things are good and things are not too, going wrong in your life, you believe in God. Some of us have a conditional faith where we will say, you know what, God, I love you, I'm all in, until something bad happens. So our faith weakens and we lose hope. And yet we are hearing out of Peter, who talked about in that first week, we have a living hope in Christ Jesus. A hope that even when we are going through turmoil or persecution, or our health is down, or our finances are in turmoil, He is with us, and our faith stays strong regardless. The second week, I spoke about, about how to live different with different values in an unholy culture. So in other words, we were able to share that a lot of times where we struggle following Christ is the issue that we want to fit in. And I think a lot of times, most of us deep down inside, we want to belong. We want to be a part of everyone else. The problem is when something happens where you have to take a stand. You cannot just live the way everyone else lives. We're called to a higher calling, a higher purpose. So we talked about that. How do we have different values set? Jimmy last week then referred to living differently, a different calling in a dark world. And one thing I really thought about was that when we are called by God, we sometimes will say, hey, what do you want me to do, God? And yet, a lot of times we don't realize that who we are will always come before what we do. So just remember the words, who before do, all right? In chapter 2, Peter says, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. You may declare his praises. You are to be different. You have a different calling. When you know who you are in Christ Jesus, what you do will follow. It will automatically follow. You won't have to say, God, what you'll do. Have your heart be aligned with his heart, and the opportunities will come. So this week, wrapping up the series, is how are we different when it comes to our perspective in persecution? A few weeks ago, I shared about the fact that being raised up in a Christian home, which again, now looking back, was a wonderful thing. But I'll tell you, I called it, I think, a bubble of Christianity. Literally, you're in church multiple days a week, and then all my friends, and because I was homeschooled, you're in a lot of faith-going families. Then when I got my first job, where do you work? You work at the family bookstore. That is our Christian bookstore down the street. So not only are you working with other fellow Christians, but most of the people you are serving are also fellow believers. So literally, when I tell you it was a bubble, I think I remember once going to a camp and they said, write down 5 people you would love to share Christ with. I couldn't even think of 5 people. And I was like, oh, that person doesn't really act like it, so maybe. But I couldn't really think of even 5 people. So this was my life growing up. I think the most persecution I faced was being that we talked about being the homeschool family. You always looked a little bit, you've seen the little shirts, yes, I know I'm a homeschooler or whatever. You've seen those type of little kids that get over themselves and they say, hey, it's all right, I'm a nerd. That was probably the worst. So nothing was that extreme until hearing the voice of God toward my late teens. Everything I did not want to do, all of a sudden I hear the voice saying, you have a calling for something. I'm going to use you in something. I'm going to put you in a place you probably have no business being in. But that's to be an instrument. That's to be used. Most people probably, and I probably should have stayed quiet regarding this this vision that God gave me, and yet, if anyone knows me, I have a tendency to gab a little bit. So I tend to tell people about what I want to see happen in the area, and I want to see lives restored, and I don't even know how it's going to happen, but we're going to do something great here, and I started sharing that. And this is when the persecution started coming about, because people started rolling their eyes and nodding their heads like, okay, you're crazy. I remember trying to bring different businesses to the area, and I would call up people and say, hey, wouldn't you want to come and be a part of this great renaissance we're going to do here? And they're like, no. And it was very quick, and usually they would hang up. And then I would, reach out to banks, hey, would you lend me money? And they would say, what for? And I would tell them, and they, would be quite rude back and said, that's not going to make you money. And I said, I know, but it's going to build community. That they don't hear that. And I remember one time, one of the vice presidents of a bank said to me, when you have your own money, you do what you want with it. If you're using my money, you're going to do what I want with it. And it was just a constant discouragement, one appointment after another. Then there was, again, most people who know me, I love sports. I'm not as consumed by sports as I used to be. But once you get after your teen years, there's not a lot of sports you can join. I think now there's more things, but at that time, one of the things that I loved doing was playing baseball. But then in turn, when you get older, you don't have that. So you got to be, the old man now, and you got to go to the softball league. So, I know my brother was an avid softball player. I'm an avid softball player as well, and so we played probably a decade each. And I played in church leagues a lot. However, I ended up eventually playing in these town leagues because, again, I want to, reach people, talk to people. I don't want to be ashamed of my faith, and so I want to, don't want to just be in church circles. I want to be in these town leagues. But obviously, it didn't take too long for people to sort of know my heart, know that, you get, I'm not trying to tell anyone, but you get people that you're not supposed to drink at the games. That doesn't stop anyone from drinking. So, they bring the little sleeves and you put the beer in the sleeve so no one can see it, or on top of that, you just take it and I guess you pour it into another container. And so, and there's a reason why they can't make first space. But anyway, but nonetheless, they always, they want you to feel part of the team. So to be part of the team, they say, hey, Skinner, join in. You want to have one of these? And I'm not going to go there. I would rather get ahead. But so again, I don't think they understood. I'm not judging them, but it did start coming with the name calling. So I either got known as Churchy, or my nickname was Church Boy, and it was really sort of funny. I remember a couple of times where you make a diving catch in the outfield, and they'd be like, "Take me to the altar," And so they all sort of had their little fun with me, and so a little bit embarrassing because you want to fit in, but the fact is, I know all of us, if we're following Jesus, all of us probably have a story to share of being put down, being maybe a little bullied, maybe being a little bit ashamed at times. However, early Christians, I feel, faced much more than we probably have ever faced. So you got to understand, when Peter wrote this book, you had the emperor at that time of Rome is Nero, and Nero is probably the closest thing of a lunatic. Killed his mother, killed his first wife. Historians believe he also killed his second wife. He's a madman for power, and he wanted to build, but when he doesn't get his way to build, historians said he burned a good chunk of Rome. And then he turns it on the early Christians. Says they were the ones that did it. So not only do you have these Christians who are already in hiding because they're scattered, because they already are not believing in the main customary religion at that time, or the gods of the Romans. But now you have the emperor telling them that they were the ones that burned Rome. So when Peter writes this book, it is partially out of compassion and encouragement. But I believe more so, he is setting the tone. He is taking a stand. He's making it very clear, this is not your home. If you are a Jesus follower, this is not your home. You are a stranger. You are an alien in this place. You are just passing through. I think sometimes we make a mistake when it comes to Jesus' promises. He did promise us certain things in life, all right? But I think we make mistakes. So I'm going to share a few things that are misconceptions of what he did not promise us. If you follow Jesus, he never promised you would be rich. And when I mean by rich, I'm talking monetarily rich, in money, all right? Maybe you're rich in love, maybe you're rich in grace. But he never promised you'd be rich. He never promised you'd be the most popular person, the best-looking individual. Never did. He never promised that you wouldn't have a broken heart in a relationship. He also never promised that you would buy an historic theater that would not have roof leaks. No, I'm joking, no. I had to throw in there, I was thinking, no. But he says in John 15, 18, and 19, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. He goes on in the next verse to say, because they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. We need to remember, as Jesus followers, even though he said that, he would never leave us nor forsake us. He says, my peace I give you. We have to realize that sometimes trials, persecution, is part of following him. It's hard to imagine because, again, in this country, persecution is still real, but it's different. They say right now that in the last decade, Christians have faced more persecution than they have in any time period. It's hard to imagine compared to what these early Christians were having and what they were going through, and yet they say, here's some statistics. They say right now over 300 people in the world right now are killed for being a Jesus follower every single month. Not year, every single month. Over 300 are killed around the world. There's over 200 churches destroyed or burned, and nearly 800 people are in prison, raped, or beaten for their faith every single month. So depending whether you live in this country or in another country, the persecution may be different. But we should never close our eyes, church, to what is going on. In some countries, you may lose a loved one for following Christ. In this country, you might just lose your job. In another country, you may be beaten for your faith. In this country, you might just find out that you weren't invited to the company party or a family party. We should never stop praying for our fellow believers, encouraging one another, whether they are in this country or another country. Peter says here in chapter 4, verse 12, "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you." So if you are living faithfully as a Jesus follower, Peter says, don't be surprised. You will face opposition. You will face trials. I hear people say sometimes, you know what? I really don't face any opposition ever. I have no issue at all. I would be cautious if that is what's going on right now with us. Because what happens many times, we may not be finding or having opposition in our life for following Jesus. Maybe for the fact that we're blending in so much. Let me use an analogy, another analogy in sports here. Great athletes, all right? When they go on the road and they have to play in an away game, I don't care who it is, if you're the best, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, if you're, Aaron Judge or Mike Trout, there's hecklers out there, okay? There's 30, 40, 50,000 hecklers all around you, screaming against you, saying, screw up, miss that foul shot, cheering every time you make a mistake. But the best of the best know that when I'm on that court, whoever is around me, anyone screaming, yelling, they have really nothing to do with this game. The best know that the only person that can stop me from either scoring a hoop, making a touchdown, getting a home run, a base hit, is the person directly in front of me, the one who's defending me, the one who's going against me. They know that no one else really matters. They know everyone who's on the bench can't be affected by them, anyone that stands. No different when it's walking with Jesus. What happens a lot of times is that if we are so concerned with fitting in, we are so much wanting to just be like everyone else, we are not even a target by the enemy. Let them be. They're not a target. But when you start giving tonight to your church, but giving your time, resources, saying, God, you know what? I know I'm yours. I want to go do something. I don't want to just stand on the sidelines. I don't want to just be a person wearing the jersey that says Christian. I want to be in the game. I want to be helping. I want to believe that our schools can be better. I want to believe that businesses can open. I want to see families restored. I want to see houses put back together. Give me a heart, not just for this country, but for other nations, God. When we start praying that, when we start saying, God, I know I'm going to be persecuted. I know I'm going to go through the heat. I know I'm going to lay it all on the line. Then all of a sudden you're in the game. Then all of a sudden the enemy's engaged. Then all of a sudden you're going to be definitely going through opposition. You're going to go through tension. If Peter was writing this today, for different nations and for us as Christians right now, he might say, you know what? Don't be surprised if someone gets beheaded. Don't be surprised if your family disowns you. Don't be surprised that you never get a second date because you took a stance on purity. Don't be surprised that your family leaves you out of Thanksgiving. Or you're not able to be on the sports team because it conflicts with either church or your walk with God. In 1 Peter 4:13, he says, "But rejoice in as much as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed." Don't miss this, church. Most of us, if we're not careful, we get in this mindset that we want to receive Christ in our lives because we're just seeking comfort, the pleasure and the ease of life. We don't want to have conflict. We don't want to have any opposition. We want to take the path of least resistance. Maybe we came to Christ because we had gone through a really tough time. And so we come to him and we have the peace of God over us, and it's wonderful, but then we want to avoid any situation. There's a graph here. I want to see if we have a graph here that points it out here. So here's this graph. Let's start at the top right here. Pursue comfort. So when our idea of following Jesus is to pursue comfort, before you know it, what do we have to do to pursue comfort? We just have to avoid opposition. Anyone who comes against us, anyone who says, oh man, you're one of those, we avoid. We don't want to face it. Then we go into, what happens? Our faith weakens. We just want to fit in, so then we don't take a stand if it weakens. And then it goes to our life being empty. We said on the outside that we serve you, Jesus, that I'm all in. I want to lay my life down for you. And then this wheel happens, and it goes right back in again and again. Pursue comfort, avoid opposition. My faith weakens more. My life's empty. Or we can be different. We live boldly for Christ. We understand that opposition will come. And when I mean by opposition, that doesn't mean, as a Christian, and I think some of us maybe have come from these circles, this does not mean you go around pointing the finger at every single person. It has nothing to do with that. But it does mean taking a stand in the value system that you have, so that when it conflicts with what God is saying, what he's doing, you are willing to speak the truth in love. We are willing to love our neighbor as ourselves. We are willing to bend over backwards, even when it brings us discomfort. But we don't mind facing opposition. We know it's part of following Jesus. But by doing that, our faith is strengthened. It is not weakened. It grows. And by it growing, we can become closer to Christ. And then it starts again. I want to live boldly again. I don't mind facing opposition. It's part of it. Keep those graphs in your mind. Be thinking about it. Peter in 4:19 says, so then those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and continue to do good. Even when others don't do good around you. Even when people don't understand you. Even though when people call you a lunatic or crazy Jesus follower or church boy or whatever, when these happen, it's okay. A lot of times we get all overcome with anxiety and all these issues because we really don't trust God at the source. I wrote down here, do what is right and trust God with the results. Do what he's telling you to do and trust him to bring about his justice. Regardless of the outcome, we will do what is right at our schools. We will do what is right at work. We will do what is right within our families. His will, not our will. According to his will, we commit ourselves. Let's not compromise our value system. Let's not cut corners, church. And never, ever worry about life getting darker. There are so many times I talk with Christians and everything is so bleak. The government's against us, the world's out to get us, everyone is so dark and bleak. It's not that life isn't dark and it's not scary. It's that he is greater, church. He is greater. We pray and we will get stronger. I wrote down here, remember, persecution will never weaken the church. It will only, always strengthen it because it strengthens our faith. Persecution will never weaken the church. If you are a Jesus follower, you should not worry about being persecuted. You should more worry about fitting in. If you are fitting in so much that life is so normal, maybe we are not set apart. Maybe we are just living comfortable. Maybe we are just living where you don't want to face any tension, no opposition. Peter says in chapter 5, 6, and 7, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety, cast all your cares on him, because he cares for you. The word cast actually refers to, Peter would know this because he was a fisherman. It's referring to actually like someone casting a line out. Just like you would. You reel and then cast that line out. Same thing. We cast our cares, our burdens, our anxieties over to God. We give him what we are struggling with, what bothers us. We can give our finances over to him. We can give our families over to him. We can give our jobs over to him. And say, God, I'm going to do what's right. And I'm going to trust you to bring the result. 1 Peter 5, 10, 11, he goes on to say, and the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while. And again, a little while. God's timing is not our timing. So again, if your little while is like, I'll suffer an hour, I wouldn't be putting that on God. It could go much longer than that. It could go years. There's no time frame. But a little while, because life is short, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. To him be the power forever and ever. Amen. If we could just stand in his presence just for a moment. I just don't want us to leave. We're just going to close down right now. Thank you, God. If you were here right now and you said, you know what, I was here part of the series, and God spoke to you, you might be saying right now, you know what, there's been really nothing different than me. I come here on a Sunday morning, but I haven't really made any other changes. Nothing's really different. I'm going to ask you just to be bold. Inside, I don't ask anyone to come to the stage, but inside, you know who you are. Are we pursuing a life of comfort? We just want to fit in? Or are we willing to take a stand for God and trust him with the outcome? He did say he would never leave us. He did say he would never forsake you. He is a father to the fatherless. Father God, I pray right now for each individual here. You will put a calling on their life. You have given them purpose. You have given them an inheritance. But it is not of this world. It is not for now. You've called us to a higher calling, to have a different value set, to be set apart. You said, be holy because I am holy. Father, I pray you would teach us what that looks like. That does not mean go around and point our fingers at everyone else. But that does mean we will be laying our lives down for you. That does mean our life is not our own. It does not mean that our schedule just stays whatever way we want it. May your Holy Spirit speak. May those who are here who have been sitting on the sidelines with the jersey that says follower of Jesus, may they check in and give them. May we seek your presence, God. Trusting you that this will happen. It's bound to have persecution. We are bound to face trials in life, God. May we think differently, God. May we see things differently. May you do a work, each one of us. And if you're here right now and you say, you know what? I love what you're saying here, Stephen, but I don't know him. I talked about it, I don't know him. It's simple as starting a relationship. Asking him. Just say in your heart, dear Jesus, I need you. I know I don't have it on my own, but you laid down your life for me. Come into my life. Give me newness, purpose. May I live for you. If you prayed that, I would just ask you again when we're done, come up here and talk to me. We will make sure you get a Bible. We will make sure you get a part of a family that cares for you and knows you and loves you. But church, he will never give you something that you're not called to do. So this is in your court. We are to be different. We are called to something much greater. In Jesus' name, amen. Please, again, if anyone needs prayer, come up here. Jimmy will be up here. I will pray for you too. In the meantime, there's lots of goodies out there. Popcorn, if you didn't win the prize because you were like him here and you got second place on every one of them. No, you can get popcorn out there in the back. Again, get to know people here. Life groups, again, we have them multiple times a week. See me on it. I know everyone's in the summer mode here, but again, we love you guys, and we'll see you up back there.